go ahead and start with, we're going to start with Midwestern BioAg. Brandon Miners is the director of agronomy for them. He's been involved in regenerative agriculture for a long time. I guess the one thing I should say about Midwestern BioAg, and maybe I'm going to steal their thunder a little bit, but we're all scratching our head like, why is a Midwestern BioAg here? That's kind of a goofy name for Montana, but a lot of their products all have to do with, they're all around strengthening tough soils, and which is exactly what we deal with all the time. So, but Brandon, super happy to have him here, and he's going to be a wealth of knowledge, kind of talk about the role of carbon and things in our soils. And then Brooks, a lot of guys will remember him from last year. He's going to take it and kind of go over their different products. So here we go.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Good to see that we filled the room here today. First of all, I'd like to thank Cody and Agravance, for putting this on. It's not easy to coordinate all, just all the event planning, making this happen. So just appreciate everyone. We're going to share just a few things about ourselves, about our company, and exactly why we're here today. So my name is Brooks Chandler. Essentially work in agronomy and sales for Midwestern BioAg. Been with the company for 9 years. So I started at the ground floor. Really, it was just a grunt for the company. Mixed fertilizer, delivered spreader carts, whole 9 yards, and just been very fortunate and blessed to be given positions as I've grown up. So I grew up on working on a small family farm on Southwest Wisconsin. So I do call Wisconsin home, but I'm on the road pretty much every week this time of year, working with a lot of customers in the plains. I live just far enough outside of Madison where I never have to visit that godforsaken place. So yeah, just a little bit about myself.
Thanks, Brooks. And thank you, Cody, obviously, for having us. As Cody kind of already mentioned, my name is Brandon Miners. I'm the director of agronomy at Midwestern BioAg. A little background on myself. Cody kind of mentioned, being in the soil health and biology game for a long time. So I grew up as part of a family-owned business. My dad started back in 1991. We were actually one of the first independent dealers for Midwestern BioAg. And so we were the first to be blending fertilizer in the state of Minnesota. And I guess I'll start there about kind of like Midwestern BioAg itself. So we're a 43-year-old company. We were founded by a guy named Gary Zimmer. He was a dairy nutritionist by trade. But what he was looking for in the early days, this is back in the mid-'80s, is he was looking for differentiated fertilizers that would be less harmful to soil biology and also have an impact on forage quality. So one of the things that people don't realize about Midwestern BioAg is that we've been innovators in the fertilizer space for over 4 decades. And some of those innovations were, for example, finding differentiated potash sources. Everybody knows about KCl 0060, but we introduced potassium sulfate into the row crop world. It's now on close to 20 million acres in the row crop world. We're the first company to educate on that. Same with like K-Meg, rock phosphate, humic acid. And the whole premise was finding high quality fertilizers that, again, had less of a harm impact to the soil, with a focus on creating a soil environment where the soil biology could actually thrive. We're not a bug in a jug company. Now, as I grew up and kind of experienced this as part of my family business, I got to see firsthand the impact to growers in southeastern Minnesota. I guess I should have said that. I'm from southeastern Minnesota, so I get it's not Montana, but the concepts still apply across the board. When I started with the family business about 2 decades ago, I got very passionate about this. I saw it firsthand, and it was a big time believer. So I was out in the field. We were digging soil pits. I was speaking at events. And what really led me to taking this position 2 years ago with the company that we've been representing for so long is that I have a passion for doing exactly this, okay? And that's speaking to growers and teaching and educating, because I know and I truly believe that the impact that we have can help you guys become more profitable farms and more resilient farms. And so since being at BioAg 2 years ago, I've been able to travel throughout the entire Midwest, speak in front of a lot of growers, a lot of podcasts. Last year, I was fortunate enough to speak on main stage at Commodity Classic. So it's been giving me a big opportunity to do exactly this. And with that being said, one of the things that like I get to do is not just talk about products. I like to talk about, again, soil biology, soil health, the concept of regenerative ag. And I'm going to tell you right now that like I'm not a fan of the term regenerative. I'm not a fan of the term sustainability. I hate that in agriculture today we have this polarization or this concept of, well, you need to be regenerative. Well, what does regenerative actually mean? Is that just no-till? Because in my area, all it is, well, if you just go no-till, you're a regenerative farmer, good for you, whatever else. Well, I'll tell you what, I've walked a lot of farms that are no-till that have poor soil health or worse soil health than a tillage farm. And so what I like to do is try to bring this concept in, help define what it actually means, and make it make sense to a grower that like you can make some decisions that actually, again, improve your profitability, improve your resiliency of your farm. That it, like, again, it's not just about the environment, it's not just about, you know, our environmental impact. At the end of the day, if you want to be sustainable, you have to be profitable. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of get into it here. So regenerative agriculture, I've been asked all this year to speak on, well, what is regenerative ag? Matter of fact, I went to a huge conference and spoke in front of 5,000 people down in Indianapolis this year on this concept. And it was kind of fun because the other people that were on stage with me, it was a debate. And the things that I was just talking about is exactly what got brought up. Well, it's cover crops. If you're using cover crops, you're regenerative. Well, really? Because I'll tell you what, a lot of guys that use cover crops, and it's very difficult for any of you guys to use cover crops up here with your environment, it's actually probably going to cause a negative, right? So this concept just gets broadly put on farmers and says, well, if you do this, you're regenerative. Well, I asked the question, well, what exactly is it? Is it soil health? Well, what is soil health? Because that really hasn't been defined very well. Well, I believe that we have the right definition. Soil health is the soil's ability to function without intervention. You know, when I say that, people are like, well, you have to intervene. Well, of course you have to intervene as growers, right? You're gonna go out there, you're gonna make a pass, you're gonna intervene on that soil itself, and you're gonna use inputs. Okay, we have to use fertilizers. The question is like right now, I've spoke all over the country. I've talked to farmers from everywhere in the Midwest to the east to the west out here, and all of them are dealing with the same challenges. You guys are all looking at high input prices that is making it so it is extremely difficult to be profitable on your farm. And a lot of guys are like, I am not paying $900 a ton for MAP, okay, or for a phosphate product. So, okay, if you're not, and you're gonna stop using it, or you're gonna back off by 50%, is your soil in a place where you're going to maintain yields and maintain profitability? That's what I mean by the ability of the soil to function without intervention. If you're pulling off on these things, do you have that resiliency to still function? And that's something that we have proven out for a long time that you can get there. Now, I get that I'm standing up here today. I'm not an expert in Montana farms. Okay, I'll admit that. But the soil principles still apply to a degree. And that's what we're going to kind of get into, especially talking about carbon here in a little bit. But is it soil fertility? So these two kind of get mixed up a lot. Well, what is soil fertility? It's the maximum level of nutrients that are exchangeable in the soil for optimum crop performance. If we have proper soil health, and that really is going to boil down to biology here in a second, we're going to have the ability to actually exchange nutrients. There's a lot of inputs that get put on today that don't actually get into an exchangeable place. I don't know if you guys have looked at research lately, but university research, not just like, this is not us talking, this is independent, or this is university and independent research has shown that our conventional fertilizers are extremely inefficient. MAP, DAP, MES, at best, maybe 20% of what you apply is actually getting into the plant. That's in the right conditions. If it's in the wrong conditions, we're probably less than that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Beck's PFR research, but Beck's PFR research came out and showed that about 10% of applied phosphorus is actually usable to the plant and getting into the plant. Now, we're not losing it. It's in our soil, but it's tied up, it's locked up. And the only way we can capture that is through proper soil biology. So again, soil fertility, is it organic matter, right? Well, not organic matter is the same. Here at Midwestern BioAg, what we've been preaching for a long time is that humus is the goal. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit about what actually humus is, but that's a fully broken down form of carbon that builds aggregates in the soil, water holding capacity, and nutrient exchange availability in a stable form where you're not losing it. Keep on going here. So is it soil biology? So we're a biological company, but we don't sell bugs in a jug. What we want to be able to do is help you guys get to a point where your soils themselves, we can help the environment and know how to feed soil biology to get biology actually working for you. Now, you guys are dealing with very challenging environmental issues that are completely different than where I'm at in southeastern Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, and I get that. But there are things that we can do to impact biology still up here in the environment that you're in. And we'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But so what are we trying to achieve? I'll kind of skip over this because this probably doesn't really apply to you when you look at a green cornfield up there. But at the end of the day, it's air and water infiltration. For you guys, it's holding. It's nutrient cycling, residue decay, living roots, nutrient efficiency. We're going to really dive into that. Brooks is going to talk about that with Tyranny today. Soil texture. A lot of people believe, and you guys might believe in this room, that the soil that you have is a soil that you have. That's what you just got to deal with. We have proven over and over for 4 decades that you can improve your soil. You can see tangible changes in your soil. And, we'll share some stories, but we got Tyranny users that have been using our product for 3-4 years, putting carbon back into their soil, that they'll call us up and they say, you know what, when I walk that field, my soil is different. I am holding more water. I am seeing better infiltration. The texture of the soil is actually different. And that's what we want to get to, because that leads to resiliency in your farm. When I mean resiliency, that means when you go through a drought period, you're holding more water and you'll be able to manage that stress better. And by the way, down here in the bottom, that picture right there, I know it's hard to see, but on the right and the left, I always ask guys, out of those 2 soils, now that's right across the road from each other, basically same soil type, one was managed different than the other. Which one of those 2 is going to be more resilient through a stress? Okay, that's kind of the point that we're trying to get to. So how do we achieve it? I'm going to ignore the stuff in black up there, balancing the soil and eliminating compaction, focusing on reduced salt impact. So low salt fertilizers, that's what we were founded on. Okay, that doesn't get talked about enough. The salt in our fertilizer makes a difference. Okay, it has a negative impact. There are other options that are out there in the industry. It's just that the industry is not very well aware of it. Now, it's been picking up over the last 5 years, but it is it is out there and available. Again, we can help provide that for you guys. But carbon, I've got carbon in big letters here. So carbon-based fertilizers, manure, Tyranny we're going to talk about, molassic, humic acids, fulvic acids, root exudates. Okay, root exudates and pushing more root exudates into your soil. That's actually BioAg. Okay, it's water exchangeable organic carbon, extremely important to achieving the kind of the end result that we're going to talk about. Residue management and thoughtful minimal tillage probably doesn't apply to you guys. I think everybody or most people are no-till up here, right, Cody? Right? But it does apply where we're at. So I'll jump into this so we can get to the actual product talk. But carbon. So this is kind of a deep passion of mine, because so much in agriculture, guys, gets talked about, and then there's no real defining factor of the differentiations between products or things. And carbon is everybody's well, carbon-based fertilizer. I got this carbon, I got that carbon. They don't really talk about the function of that carbon. But what we're going to see here today is there is a huge differentiation. But what is it? It's the fuel, the structure, and the communication system that drives nutrient cycling, biology, and soil plant resilience. It's really the foundation of aggregation in the soil. So when I mean aggregation, it's changing that texture of the soil. But not all carbon sources behave the same. Form matters, okay? The type of carbon matters. So what do we have? We've got 4 different types of carbon, all right? We've got energy carbon, which is BioAg, and I'm sure you hear one company out here preaching BioAg like crazy. And the thing is they're not wrong. BioAg is extremely important. The way to think about BioAg, that's your daily cash flow. That's the energy for soil biology and energy for your plant on a daily basis. It's not long-lived, but it is extremely important. Okay, structural carbon, that's what builds the aggregates and water holding. You got chelating carbon, that's what either holds and mobilizes nutrients, and signaling carbon, which influences root exudation. I threw this picture up here because that's a compost pile. And I ask guys all the time, do you really think that a dextrose sugar or a sucrose sugar that you're going to use as an input, that's carbon by the way, is the exact same as that form of carbon that's right there? Because that's also carbon. The 2 have completely different modes of actions, 2 completely different functions, but yet in agriculture, they seem to get grouped together as the same, all right? And there really is a difference. But the biggest mistake in carbon fertility is assuming that all carbon does all of these jobs, and they don't. So we want to get very prescriptive with our carbon. So hopefully I'll try to speed up here, but what do we have? We got the simple sugars, right? The sucrose, dextrose, glucose. I'm sure you guys got companies up here that are selling sugar products. What are they? They're highly labile, they're simple carbon molecules, they're immediate microbial food source. What's really the strength of them? Well, you're going to get rapid microbial stimulation. That's a benefit sometimes in the spring. Jumpstart your soil, but they're really useful in a rescue or a stress situation. Okay, so they can be used, but used wisely, because the other thing is, like limitation, is that you can cause too much of a microbial flush in your soil and basically act like a sugar spike and then a crash. Okay, so again, can be positive, but can also be negative. The thing that I want you guys to take away today, before I go any farther, is I want you to think, if I'm going to use a product, okay, if I'm going to use a carbon-based fertility, what really do I need on my farm for my operation? Because every single one of you growers in here has different equipment, different management practices, different soil types. Every one of you has a different need. There is no magic bullet in agriculture. There's no magic bullet in carbon fertility. You really need to understand how to use it, where to place it, and be able to predict your success, that you're going to get an ROI from that input, and you're going to stay profitable through your system. Sugarcane molasses. So this is very popular in our area. I was actually one of the first people to really sell molasses as fertilizer. It still kind of falls along like the high energy type of sugar, but it's more than that. There's minerals, there's different compounds in there. There's a little bit slower release carbon that's in that, in a molasses type of product. It does have like limited structural or nutrient holding function, but again, molasses feeds biology, but it doesn't give biology a place to live. All right, so you have carbons that feed biology, you have carbons that actually give your biology a place to live. So organic acids, I'm pretty sure everybody in here has probably heard of a humic acid, a fulvic acid. Well, in the organic acid world, you've got lactic acid, citric acid. We're going to talk about a really unique one from us today, uronic acid, but the main one is humic and fulvics. Well, humic and fulvics, what are they, right? They're partially decomposed organic matter fractions. What they really are good at is chelating nutrients or increasing nutrient availability. Humics chelate, fulvics help nutrients get into plants better. Two completely different functions, but they get talked about as one and the same. All right, so understanding how to use and when to use is big when it comes to humic and fulvics. So I'm going to put a little plug here on Terranew. He's going to dive deep into it here in a little bit. But digestate manure carbon. So everybody knows that manure has carbon in it, and there's a value to it. There is a lot of like fast-acting, highly soluble carbon in manure. There's some stable carbon that's in there too. But when it comes to a digestate, so manure that's been run through an anaerobic digester, it turns it into a very, very unique carbon source, all right? And, well, like I said, Brooks is gonna kind of get into this more, but what you have is you have a combination of factors. You've got some labile, so some fast-acting food sources for biology. You've got semi-stable carbons and complex carbons. So you kind of have that true, like, what do you want to call it? Like, full function carbon set on that side of things. But this isn't really raw organic matter. It's carbon that's already been through biology. And that's kind of a big deal. Because if carbon can go through a biological system, eventually what it does is it converts it into a stable form in your soil. Well, basically with a digestate, that process has already happened before it hits your field. I think about you guys up here where you have low rainfall, low moisture in the soil, challenging conditions. It's not really an ideal environmental situation to promote soil biology. So if you lack soil biology and you lack the ability to process the carbons that you're using, the simple sugars, like you're thinking about back to BioAg, things like that, you could maybe see some negative effects with it. I'm not saying don't use it, but you got to be thoughtful about that. Versus a Terranew product that we're going to talk about today, it's already gone through that process. It's already been done. It's already gone through the biological process. Now you have a stable form of carbon or organic matter going back into your soil. Biogel. So Brooks is going to dive deep into this, but I want you to focus on uronic acid. This is the main active ingredient in our technology. This is an organic acid that's never really been used in agriculture before, and it's very, very unique. So you look at all the organic acids I talked about, humic acid, fulvic acid, lactic acid, each one has a different function. Uronic acid is the organic acid that mainly makes up your root exudates and your pectin in the plant. So you guys want stalk strength, you want standability, you need to have organic or uronic acid to build pectin within that plant to be able to increase the integrity of that plant itself. So looking at it, what is it? It's a highly functional carbon derived from polysaccharides. It is found naturally, like I said, in plant root exudates. What's unique about this is it holds water at the root interface. It has a water holding capacity to it. Very, very unique. There's really no other organic acid that has water holding capacity to it. It also binds nutrients without locking them up. So when we look at the inefficiencies of our fertilizers, either leaching or tying up to our soil, this has the ability to hold on to them in place without locking them up into your soil. All right, so keeping them from tying up, keeping them plant available for an extended period of time. This is a carbon that behaves like a living root, not a food dump. A food dump being like sugar in your soil, spike everything, and then it crashes afterwards. This is really a season-long sustainable. Did that stop right there? Oh, there. Hold on. Guess we got a blank slide. I think I'm going to finish up with this, and I'm going to turn it over to Brooks to really dive into the products. If you take a look at this, this is a good breakdown of understanding carbon, because the reality is carbon is not going anywhere. All right, this is the future of fertility in agriculture. The problem is that it's just carbon's not well understood. If you look at this slide here, you're going to see simple sugars, so sucrose, dextrose, the longevity on it is hours to days at best. All right, and it's a high energy, but there's a high risk of also tie up afterwards from it on nutrients. Molasses, days to weeks. All right, still fast, high energy microbes, but short-lived. Fulvic acid, that's weeks. It's nutrient transport, getting nutrients actually up into your plant. But it has limited structural capabilities in the soil. So it does not build structure very well within your soil itself. Humic acid, that's months. Okay, that's how long it persists. It does help build structure and increase your CEC, so your ability to actually hold nutrients in the soil. It is biology dependent though. Digestate that we just talked about, that's truly season-long carbon fertility. And primary role, cycling and nutrition, nutrient retention, nutrient use efficiency. I did put up here a risk is source variability. The great part about our Terranew product is that we have very, very consistent feedstock and very consistent digestate coming into our products. You guys will see it on the samples. I assume Cody's got samples somewhere around here. But when you take a look at it, it's an extremely highly consistent premium dry fertilizer product with it. And then uronic acid. It really is a season-long food source for biology, carbon source in there. So even though it's coming in a liquid form, kind of like a humic of fulvic, it does not act like a humic and fulvic. It truly carries out. So again, just I think that's the last slide. Is it skipping? No. Carson, do you have like his slides ready? Okay. So yeah, usually when I do this, and I apologize for talking fast and trying to get through stuff, but usually I've got an hour, 2 hours to really dive deep into carbon and calcium and structure and all these kind of things. I try to cram as much as I could into 15 minutes here today because I want to give Brooks the opportunity to really dive into our technologies and how they can truly impact your farm. If you do have questions, please come up and ask afterwards. I'd love to be able to have conversations with you. I started this off by saying, I'm from southeastern Minnesota. I am not an expert on your soils, but Cody alluded to this. Our name is Midwestern BioAg because we were founded in Wisconsin, and for 40 years we had an impact in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, that region. What we've learned here lately in the last probably 4 or 5 years, and a big thanks to Brooks because he really developed this market, is that our technology, our fertility, has the biggest impact in the most challenging soils, which, I should have realized because when I was when I grew up with my dad and I got trained by him, we used to go to farms and we used to ask for their most difficult soil, okay? Because the rest of the industry says, that's your poorest ground, don't invest into it. That's your best ground, invest into it. And we came in and said, you know what, we're gonna take your poorest ground and we're gonna raise that up somewhere near where your best ground is. And if you look at across the board, increase in bushels per acre and profitability in your farm, that's the fastest impact you can have. So it's not surprising that as we've moved west, we've really seen that these products, this basically concept has a massive impact in the harshest conditions in America. So we've really joked, should we even be called Midwestern BioAg anymore? Because our fastest market is out here. So I hope to learn more about your farms, your soils, become better in it, Like I said, I don't have every answer, but I'm going to learn, and I'm going to learn alongside with you and Cody and the group here. But feel free to come up and challenge me on anything that we've talked about. So appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, Brandon. So we got, oh, you have the clicker? Right here. All right, so I'm gonna do just a quick little overview. So my goal, like, you know, when I get done, like just talking to you guys, I'm gonna take everything Brandon talked about and I'm gonna simplify it in farmer terms, because that's how I understand things as well. So the whole goal of this is to talk about our products, how you guys can, you know, possibly try some either on a small scale or a large scale, and just, you know, how it's gonna have the best impact for you and also help you understand it. So as he mentioned, Midwestern BioAg, we're a 40-year-old company. There's not a lot of companies that have been talking like, you know, the soil health, this regenerative farming game that have been around for 40 years. And all of our products are a chasm of 40 years of trial and error. So just pretty proud to work for this company. They've done a lot for me, and yeah, just love working here. So what we do, we build products and programs to maximize growers' ability to increase yields, profitability, and legacy. So the legacy portion is something that I'm extremely passionate about. Our biggest market and our biggest market by far is the state of North Dakota. So like, you think about North Dakota, yes, it's not the same as what you guys have to work with here. They get a little bit more rain, right? But their application equipment, especially the air drill market, is exactly why we are in North Dakota, because our products fit extremely well with the air drill market, which is exactly why we're here today. So a little bit of agenda. So we're going to talk about just setting the farm up for success. So talking about some of the products that we have, you know, that you can use right away that is going to de-risk your operation, especially from lack of moisture. We're going to talk about building near-term and long-term soil resilience. So our Terra product, yes, that is a short-term play, but the long-term play for changing your soils and building carbon, it really does take a little bit of time, you know, to see a physical change. Going to talk about, at the end, we're going to talk about program approach to moisture management. I'm going to show you some data from just west of here in Kremlin from 2025. We are absolutely impacting how much moisture that soil is holding and just losing less. And we're going to go over the data as well. Has anyone in here seen this before? Liebig's law of the minimum. Raise your hand. Good. So essentially what this is showing is, you know, every soil has a yield limiting factor. Doesn't matter where you are. I don't care like if you're in central Iowa or here, there is going to be a yield limiting factor for your operation. So each stave on the barrel here represents either a nutrient or a growth factor. So a growth factor is like heat, oxygen, nutrients, obviously NPK, micronutrients. So the lowest stave on this barrel, you're always going to have something that is your biggest limiting factor for what your yield potential is going to be. So this, with a little help of AI, I generated this this barrel right here for what you guys are dealing with in Northwest Montana. Cody has said this numerous times, and like just talked to several of you in this room. Is it a nutrient? Is it fertility? That's the biggest limiting factor for you guys? No, it's moisture. It's water. So I did a little bit of calculation, and this is for Haver exactly. So the last 5 years, you guys have received 11.06 inches of rain in the last 5 years. That's a 5 year, or inches of moisture, so that's including snow. In the growing season, it's 7.2 inches of rain that you have in a growing season. That is not a lot at all. So it's exactly why we're going to talk about what we're bringing to the table. Our products are going to help create your soil to be more resilient and absolutely retain onto more moisture and just get more out of your soil. So managing stress for success. You guys deal with stresses. So we're going to talk about carbon-based fertility. Going to get into Terra quite a bit. Talk about fertilizer balance and the importance of micronutrients, not overloading the soil with synthetic fertilizers. Reduce salt load from fertilizers. Going to talk about that a little bit. And then moisture management products. That is going to be hyper-focused on BioGel towards the end, but I'm going to start with Terra here first. And you guys remember, like, when I was up here last year talking about Terranu, just raise your hand if you remember, the conversation about Terranu. Okay, good deal. So Terranu, really, at the end of the day, we can overcomplicate it all we want, but what Terranu is, I'll tell you what it's not. It's not your grandpa's fertilizer. It's a manure-based carbon fertilizer that we're also pairing fertility with. So how we make the product, like on the right-hand side of the screen right here, it's really a much more complex process than this, but this is the easiest way to understand what the product is and what we're bringing to the table. So at our facility, we bring in this dairy manure, essentially. We also bring in fertilizers. So it's like ammonium sulfate, MAP, potash, micronutrients. We take the fertilizers and we pulverize them. So if you ever ground feed before, very similar to like a roller mill or a hammer mill. So we're grinding these fertilizers up and then we're mixing them with the manure. So not only does every single granule have hundreds of thousands of little micronized fertilizers in every single granule, it's also hooked to the carbon source or hooked to the manure source. I know last year, after I got done talking, there's a few cattle guys that came up afterwards and were talking about the benefits that they have seen from just one application of manure on their fields, and it's still showing up today. It's hard to do that in this area. You can't scale manure, right? But Terranu is a way that you can, run this product through your air drills as a starter and just get the benefits of manure at scale. All right, so this is my favorite slide here. So the bowl that's on the top right there, that's MAP. So that's MAP, 1152.0, in a bowl of water for about an hour. The bottom bowl right there, that is Terranu, in a bowl of water for about an hour. We should do this today. Cody, maybe we should do it at the end. But one thing that's really interesting, to me anyways, is like when you add this Terranu product into the water, it almost looks like a carbonated beverage, like it starts to bubble a little bit. And what that is, that's just biological processes. It's when water is reintroduced, there's just biological life that's happening. But if you take a look at the granules too, and we see this time and time again, the granules in the Terranu bowl, they actually absorb the water and they swell. Because it's made of organic compounds, it's made of carbon, so they actually swell to about 3 to 4 times their size. And when the water is gone, these granules break apart very similar to like a worm casting. They just get very brittle. So it takes a lot less water to essentially decompose these granules versus like a high salt fertilizer. MAP isn't very high salt, but it's a salt-based fertilizer. So the blend that we're sending up here this year, we're just keeping it simple. Like last year, I talked about several different blends that we can bring to the table. We can still do some different blends, like just based on your guys' most limiting factor. But this 5-22-4, you can see up there on the left-hand side, this blend is 22% phosphorus. It also has calcium, magnesium, sulfur, boron, copper, manganese, zinc, and carbon. So it's truly like a complete package. We're not just focusing on one or two things. We're focusing on kind of the kitchen sink. The way that I like to describe it is 1152 or MAP or some of these other salty commodity fertilizers. That's like going the easy way out and going to McDonald's and getting a Happy Meal. Like, yeah, it's not cheap right now, but it's cheaper. And, you're probably not going to feel very good about a half hour after eating it. Terranu is more of like eating a good steak, maybe a little bit of vegetables, skipping the beer potentially. It's a better balanced diet for your soil that's going to feed it near term and long term. One other big benefit of this product. So this Terranu was built for the air drill market. So it's lower in salt, and also what you're going to see, it has a lighter bulk density. So the bulk density of this product is about 45 pounds per cubic foot. MAP is about 62. So when you're using Terranu, like a 1-for-1, say 20 pounds to 20 pounds to the acre, you're going to get an additional 300,000 to 400,000 more granules per acre. And you think about how many seeds you guys are you're putting out there. Sometimes it's millions, if hundreds of thousands, if not millions of seeds per acre. We're getting substantially more granules next to every single seed. So we're just setting that, that crop up for, or that seedling up for more success. All right, so this is just a little diagram. I got to work on this a little bit better. It's not exactly the way I want it to be. This is just comparing MAP and MES versus TerraNew. So if you see, the biggest thing, like at the end of the day, is MAP. I believe it has a salt index of around 30, like 20. It's 28 or 30, if I remember correctly. But these granules are still, they're a rock. It's a rock granule. So when I was up here this summer, and we're checking out some trials, just meeting with some other customers, I actually went and dug at the plot that was in Kremlin there. And where the 40 rock was used, you guys know what 40 rock is. When I was digging, you could actually see these little white BBs of the fertilizer. And this was, I believe it was like right after the 4th of July, right before the 4th of July. So that crop is, relatively finished out at that point, or getting awfully close to it. And you see these white 40 rock granules that essentially are basically in the same state from where they were applied. They just lost a little bit of their dust coating. You could not find any TerraNew granules because the little bit of moisture that we do get, they're going to break down quicker, and they are absolutely going to do more for that crop that growing season. So at the end of the day, it takes substantially less water for a TerraNew granule to activate and actually work, and much less prone to being tying up, on your farm. So this is the last little bit about TerraNew. It can be like I said, it can be as complicated as you want it to be, but no, not yet. So we can make it as complicated as we want, but really, like manure, especially dairy manure, it's one of the best fertilizer sources in the world. Like God made dairy manure for a specific reason, right? I grew up on a dairy farm, or working on a dairy farm. We have changed soils by dragline and dairy manure in our area. You guys don't have access to manure, very effectively. This is an option to where you get the benefits of manure. It's high in fertility. It has micronutrients in it, and it's absolutely going to change your soils over time. All right, switching gears now. So we're not talking about dry fertilizer anymore. We're not talking about TerraNew. We're talking about a relatively new technology that we brought to the market in 2023. And this last year, we had several, I believe it was like 40 to 50,000 acres of biogel up in this region. So biogel, what it is at the end of the day, it's a complex carbohydrate. So it's basically a mixture of several complex sugars, all made of food source materials. And what we are after, like if you take a look at this picture right here. I know it's not that clear for some of you guys, but what biogel is, the main active ingredient in this is uronic acid. And I encourage you, because everyone has this little device in front of them right now. It's called a cell phone, right? You should have, if you're not using ChatGPT, that's fine. Just use good old trusty Google. Just look up uronic acid and just fact check everything that I'm going to say, because uronic acid is truly extremely unique and extremely valuable technology. But what is it? So if you pull a plant, like on your farm, like just go out, just pull some plants, and you'll see there's soil that actually will stick onto some of those roots. And that is mucilage, glumalin, or uronic acid that is actually holding that soil onto the roots. So what we were after was creating a product that mimicked, this plant root exudate, or what protects the roots and keeps the soil there. And what we found through some of our early trials, that the main mode of action of this product is actually moisture management and retaining onto more moisture, which we're going to talk about here in a bit. So we have 3 main products that are all based on this biogel technology. We have a seed treatment product. We have a dry fertilizer coating product. And we also have liquid fertilizer, or a liquid product that you can add with a herbicide pass or with a UAN application. We have 3 main products that fit you guys in your operations best up here. So we're going to start with the seed treatment product. So our seed treatment biogel is called HydroPrime. HydroPrime is the one product that I'm the most excited for you guys to start using up here, because it's an extremely low cost to entry point. I believe it's anywhere from like $1.70 to $4 per acre to use this product. So it depends on seeding rate, and I'll defer to to Cody and other Cody on exactly what rates you're going to be using on your crops. They're just much better at understanding the seed treatment, rates and everything than I am. So I could talk about this product all day long, but the best thing to do here is I'm going to show you guys this video. Hang on, I want to pause it quick, Carson. All right, so should have defined this beforehand. This is just, I know you guys are probably like, why did he show a video of a frickin' corn seed? You guys don't care about it. So it's just, we use corn because, I don't know, for whatever reason, it's our most popular crop. So this is a corn kernel that's treated with this HydroPrime. So it's treated with this BioGel seed treatment. And what you're seeing right there is it's just a drop of water. So it's the BioGel or the HydroPrime seed treatment on this kernel of seed, and that's just a drop of water. Go ahead, Carson. Want to play it one more time? And this is not a time-lapse video. This is in real time. It's pretty cool. So we feel that for you guys up in this area, just talking about moisture, like how can we have the biggest impact for you guys and like just making you more profitable, helping you get more grain in the bin? Using the BioGel products is absolutely going to help your crop's ability to interact with moisture and just get more of it where it matters most, which is on the seed. Like that's where it all starts, or as close to that seed as possible. I want to make one other comment here on HydroPrime, and this goes for all of our BioGel products. So like, yes, this might look like magic, but it's at the end of the day, it's really not. It's going back, it's a complex carbohydrate. That's also a great food source for soil biology. I know some of you guys are using like biological seed treatments, which are great. 100% encourage you to still use them, but those biological seed treatments are only going to be as good as the moisture that you have available in your soil and the food source that you have there for your soil. So one thing you guys are lacking up here is carbon in the soil. So if you pair this biological seed treatment that a lot of you are still using, like Eco-T, there's several others that I could just list off, and you pair BioGel with it, not only are you giving that seed treatment a food source, but you're also helping its interaction with water. So it's just going to make that other seed treatment just look better at the end of the day. All right, so moving on from the seed treatment, now we're going to talk about N-Surge. So N-Surge also is a product that's based on the BioGel technology lineup. And what we did last year, this is actually our #1 moving product in Montana this last year, is it's in a liquid formulation, so you can just splash and go with your pre-emergent herbicide package. So last year I was up here telling you guys that we should look at running 2 quarts to the acre of this product. This year, telling you cut it in half. So this product, we're recommending you guys use 1 quart to the acre. That's because you're typically spraying 5 to 6 gallons of total solution per acre. So the 1 quart per acre will just be better for your application equipment. But also, all of our best data from 2025 came from a half rate of this product. So what you're getting here, like when you're treating like a pre-emergent herbicide pass, you're essentially broadcasting this technology or this uronic acid on every single acre. So you're influencing that entire top inch to inch and a half of how that soil is going to retain onto more moisture. So the pictures right here, I wish that they were a little bit more clear. Wish we made them bigger. So this was actually a trial done in Northwest never would say that word to you guys around here. North Dakota, and this was on flax. So it's exactly what I described. It was 1 quart with their pre-emergent herbicide pass. So that was the treatment, and the control was the same exact program, just no N-Surge. And what we found was a 35% less evapotranspiration. So we're actually able to measure how much moisture the soil is losing, and we're losing 35% less moisture, and this ended up being, I think it was a 4.6 bushel increase. So it ended up being about a $48.20 ROI for this particular grower. Got some more data that we'll share with you guys on this particular product that's really cool, where we buried some soil moisture probes. And when it rains or I know there's no humidity up here, but when it rains, you actually see the product spike. So the product rehydrates or swells and hangs onto that moisture for a longer period of time. I think it's pretty cool. So covered the seed treatment, covered N-Surge. Now we're going to talk about the fertilizer treatment, and we're calling it Yield Armor. At the end of the slide, the end of this, I'll kind of recap everything. But the best thing that we can do is just have a conversation with as many of you as possible, because we don't necessarily want you to go all in with all three products. A lot of times it's going to be picking one or two that's going to fit your application equipment best and just fit your needs for what your goals are. So Yield Armor. It's as simple as it's a biogel product that we mix with dry fertilizer. So if you're looking at getting a truckload of Terranue, we can coat the Terranue with this biogel technology. So if you remember that seed treatment video of how that water interacts with that, with the seed treatment, you're essentially able to do the same thing with your fertilizer. So you're just impacting, not only are you giving the food source a carbon delivery mechanism because you're using biogel as a coating, so it's another way to introduce carbon to your soil. You're also impacting that fertilizer's ability to interact with water. So this is the best way to describe it right here. I could talk about it all day long, but this is showing it. Focus on the right-hand side. I know this is corn. I am so sorry that it is corn, but it just is what it is. So the treatment is on the left. It's like when I talk about what uronic acid is doing, that is what it looks like when it is being placed right there as close to the seed as possible. You're going to see that it's essentially going to be like a wad of gum, like around that particular seedling. That's the uronic acid actually holding the soil aggregates together, which is holding moisture. It's rotating onto more nutrients. This is exactly what you're going to see out of it. This is a great... The analogy I was going to use, and I don't have this quite all cleared out yet in my head. I know basketball is a big deal in Montana, right? I played high school basketball, come from a big high school just basketball family. So when I played in high school, our team we were big into running the diamond press, right? So that's how we scored most of our points. So our best offense was our defense. This is exactly what we're doing here with biogel. It's a defensive product. It is going to obviously impact moisture. That is going to be the best offense for your plant, going throughout the growing season. All right, so this is one of our first data points here. Actually, you guys can see this pretty good. So this was done in Kremlin, just west of here. So this was with one of our biogel products that was applied on spring wheat. So I wish that the pointer would work on the TV, but it doesn't. But you guys see how there's a vertical bar that goes up right there? That's essentially a precipitation event. And the other two, like the dark green bar is the treatment, so that's the biogel. The lighter green is the control with no biogel. So you see whenever there's a precipitation event, it actually spikes. So the biogel rehydrates and hangs on to that moisture for a longer period of time. If we can get that crop an extra 4 or 5 days, it's like just retaining onto more moisture, that is a really big deal for influencing what your guys' yield potential can be. And at the end of the year, this proved to be a 1.44 inches of additional rainfall retained. And this particular trial, I know when it was seeded with winter canola, you could see it exactly to the line where the biogel was applied. So we were still holding on to that moisture all the way through the growing season after the crop was harvested, and then the next crop was planted. Not going to spend too much time on this because you guys should have these all on your tables right here. We had some really good results from our trials in 2025 because we went about setting things up correctly. And this year we're going into it with even a better understanding of like how to position these products on your farm so you do get a return on investment. ROI is everything right now during this time. And so a lot of what we talk about, like we're going to be talking about cutting rates back a little bit just because it's the best way to make things pencil. But this particular biogel and Terranue trial this last year ended up being a $12.26 per acre ROI. Here's another just demonstration of showing how biogel works just using some technology. So we buried these soil moisture probes. This was actually done in Wisconsin, and it's very similar to the chart that I showed you guys before. So the blue bar right there, that's a precipitation event. Some of the smaller blue bars, that's like high humidity. And the dark gray line, that's the treatment. So that's biogel being used in furrow. The lighter gray is the control. There's no biogel in that at all. So every time you see there's a rain event, it's consistent. The product reswells, it rehydrates, and it hangs on to that moisture for a more prolonged period of time, which is where I get really excited is towards the end of the growing season there. In the Midwest, it's like late August. If we're retaining onto more moisture for a longer period of time, we're absolutely going to impact, how much nutrition is getting into that crop, which is going to influence yield at the end of the day. I got 2 slides left here. And so not sure if you're aware, if anyone here is aware of this at all, but we are enacting, I believe it's an industry leading warranty program behind all of our biogel products. So it is a program that we're going to have. We're using a third party. It's called Growers Edge, to where if you use one biogel product on your farm and you get signed up for the warranty program, we are guaranteeing at least a 2% increase in yield on your farm, or else we will pay you back at the end of the year. If you use 2 products, we're guaranteeing a 4% increase in yield, or else we'll pay you back at the end of the year for that product. And then 3 goes up to 6%. So we understand, like right now, I wouldn't be really too excited about trying new products either. So this is the way to de-risk your guys', just kind of being turned off by trying a new product a little bit. So we're putting our money where our mouth is and saying if the product doesn't work, we're going to, pay you back at the end of the growing season. All right, final slide here. So just talking about some programs. We covered a lot. I appreciate you guys. You see most everyone still paying attention. So the one product that we talked about was BioGel N-Surge. So this is for your pre-emergent or your burn down herbicide pass. So this is 1 quart per acre. This is at $7 per acre. And then we talk about HydroPrime or HydroPrime DS. Kurt Livesay is going to talk about our DS product here in a little bit. It's a little bit more of a value add product. It's anywhere from $1.70 to $6 per acre, depending on seed rate. The Terranue 522-4 for small grains this year, we're trying to target around a 30 pound per acre application rate. So this is the dairy manure product, right? And at 30 pounds per acre, it's $17.62 per acre. On some lentils, or some of your legume crops or pulse crops, we're recommending a 20 pound per acre application rate of this 522-4. And then the yield armor, this is the fertilizer coating product. This is anywhere from $4.50 to $9 per acre, depending on application rate. All those products minus the Terranue. The Terranue is not covered by the warranty program, but all the BioGel products are covered by the warranty program. So if you guys have any questions on this or like kind of stumped, like don't know what to do next, this is exactly why we're here. We'd love to talk to you all just to provide you with the best service and set you up for success. If you're looking at using any of our products in 2026, we have a lot of confidence in them. I think it's really cool how we manufacture them, how we make them. And the reason why we're here is because our products just do best in the most stressful environments. This is probably one of the most stressful environments that I've ever, worked in. So appreciate everyone's time. Hope you learned something. And I believe Mr. Neil Weens is next. So yeah, anyone have any questions? I know last year we had some really good questions. Neil.
Brandon, you've talked about chelation before. I think everybody else has heard about it here and there. What is the definition of chelation and why are we doing it?
The simple definition is we're just basically holding on to a nutrient. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as grower terms, right? Is if we got a soluble nutrient in the field, that soluble nutrient is going to do a couple things. Either it's got to be used by the plant right away, or it's going to leach, or it's going to tie up to the soil. Chelating a nutrient is basically attaching it to something that's going to hold it in place and keep that from tying up or from leaching and still being basically available in a plant usable form. So again, chelating that nutrient, holding it in place, keeping it there. Is that simple enough, Neil? Good? You got a better different definition?
No, I'm just curious. So how is it generally released? So if you're sitting in there and you've chelated this nutrient, How does it get released normally?
I mean, usually it's biology, right? I mean, usually it's biology. Otherwise, like, it can be a transport mechanism. I mean, so like fulvic acid, for example, it's going to help kind of chelate that nutrient, but also move it into the plant. I guess there's two different factors. Usually it's biology that's going to, again, to move it. Not to get like too scientific, but Dr. James White from Rutgers University showed this year something really unique. We used to think that a soluble nutrient just like got absorbed by the root itself and pulled into the plant. But what he actually showed, and you can see this on the slides, is that the nutrient gets eaten essentially by a bacteria, okay? And then that plant, the root itself, actually pulls that bacteria into the root. And then that root has an acid and basically squeezes that nutrient out, and then it pushes that bacteria back out of the root into the soil to get refed by carbon. All right, so it's really not just a soluble nutrient going. We need biology to move the majority of nutrients into the soil. So usually it is still a biological process. Now, does that happen if it's a foliar application? No. That's where like a lot of chelating agents tend to come in. Some chelating agents are better than others. Like EDTA is a good chelating agent. It's going to hold that nutrient, but it's really difficult like getting into the plant itself. There's different chelation forms like IDS chelation, which is a smaller molecule, gets that plant better than what like an EDTA would be. So again, it's just holding onto that nutrient. Good question. Other questions? Yes.
Is that 30 pounds for small grains? Is that in a blend with other things in it, or is that the P base by itself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's a blend. Majority of it, I believe it's like 70% of it is P-base. We're also adding just a little bit of 1152 in there. It's like 10 pounds or 10% of it. And also another product that's called Crumbles, which is a chicken manure base. So it's a blend of majority of it's Terranew, 70% of it is Terranew. But there's also 2 other products in that blend. It's a good question. So one thing that we get a little hesitant of, but like having you guys substantially scale back on your phosphorus, is that it takes a little bit of time to sort of build your soil up, build your carbon up to where you can really cut back on the synthetic P. So we'd like to have a little bit of MAP in there because it's essentially an insurance policy that you are going to get some soluble P out there. Majority of it is going to be Terranew. So it's just lower risk for using the product. Good question. Yeah, we have. So a majority of our customer base in North Dakota has run straight Terranew. The other reason why we're adding some of these other products in here, like we can't hide behind it, is because it's a way to make it more economical for you guys. Because like the price of Terranew, it's really expensive to get it out here. So by doing some of these other things, like adding some 52, adding some of the chicken crumbles in, just gets it at a much more appetizing price point, especially in this year. Mm-hmm.
Right. 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 It's like it's the reason why like in-furrow starters on corn. I know you guys aren't corn users up here, but why they're so popular in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North Dakota, and they're not popular in Iowa and Illinois, right? It's we plant in extremely cold soil. Phosphorus is not available. Again, the biology that's there to mineralize phosphorus isn't available at that time. So a little bit of early season soluble phosphorus goes a long ways to help that plant out. We don't want to do too much though. One interesting thing is if we push soluble phos too much early season and it gets into warm soils, it's been proven that the plant itself will disassociate itself from basically the fungi in the soil that's going to bring phosphorus later in the season. So we can do a benefit early on with a little bit of soluble phos. If we push it too far, we'll have a lot of phos early and we'll have no phos late in the season. So that's really, I didn't talk about this earlier, but we built this company on the concept of soluble to slow release, all right? Not having everything up front soluble, because something my dad taught me early on was We're trying to basically feed a baby calf and adult cow ration to our crops with all soluble nutrients up front. And so like our blends typically, we talked about 0060 earlier, right? Highly soluble potash source. Potassium sulfate is a slower release. K-Meg's even a slower release than that. Every blend I've sold for the last 20 years has a blend of all three in it. I want a little bit of soluble up front, I want a little bit of slow release, and then even slower release. All of our nitrogen blends that we've sold for my entire career are urea, AMS, and ESN, a slow release, right? We don't want too much up front. Matter of fact, that's a detriment to your crop. So that's really the concept. So what this blend has put together here is that concept. You've got a little bit of MAP, a little bit of solubility, and then you got that terra in you that's going to truly carry out that phosphorus for later on in the season.
There's one other analogy that I wanted to bring up too. It's like, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's like really complex, right? So like thinking about, you know, commodity like salt-based fertilizers and how it works, like, you know, how it impacts your soil. So how do we make beef jerky? You know, we take, you know, a slice of steak or a roast, whatever it is, we salt it, and then we dry it. So if you're using all these salty fertilizer, and what does that do? That will essentially kill the biology, you know, that's on that beef jerky, and it keeps it in a stable state for a longer period of time. So it's kind of nuking, you know, the bugs on that piece of meat. Think about your soil as the same way. If you're continuously using a lot of these salty fertilizers over and over again for a longer period of time, these salts are going to want to diminish what biology can do. So you're naturally going to be kind of, don't want to say going backwards, but definitely not getting ahead by really relying on these salty fertilizers. Any more questions? There's no such thing as a bad question, unless I ask it.
Or as my dad, this is a bad one, but my dad used to say, there's no such thing as a dumb question, just dumb people that ask questions.
Well, appreciate it, everyone. We'll be here all day.
I got two more things to touch on really quick. So one, I'm sure you guys have probably heard of hydrogels before, because, you know, we talk about biogels being like a hydrogel holding on to moisture. We're not the only one that exists in the market, all right? There's other hydrogels that are out there. The difference is that almost every single other hydrogel that's out there is a polyacrylamide. It's plastic-based. It's gonna hold on to water, but it doesn't give it up very well to the plant, and it doesn't do anything else but hold on to the water. So the difference with like biogel, the name is biostimulant, and hydrogel is a gel. So it, number one, will hold on to water, but it gives the water up to the plant. Number two is it provides a food source for biology. Number three, polyacrylamides don't break down in your soil. It takes years and years and years. They're already banned in other countries. Ours is 100% food grade. It fully biodegrades every year. So the last thing I want to make a point on, or two things actually. Number one, he kind of covered this earlier. I want to talk about stress really quick because Kurt in the back of the room, when you hear him, he's going to talk about stress. And this might be a different concept for you to understand, but I really want to hammer this home because it's 100% true. Okay, is we don't gain yield from the inputs that we use or the practices that we use. Okay, we limit yield loss. Every time you put seed in the field, your genetic potential is significantly higher than what you think. We talk about corn. That bag of corn has 500, bushels potential when you plant in the field. So why do we only get 200 in my area? Because a short, let's say drought, 7 days of drought, Kurt might have the data on this. The yield loss from that is exponential. Now you have abiotic stresses, so you have weather. Then you have biotic stresses, so you have disease, fungal disease, insects, whatever it might be. Then you have nutritional stress. All right, so if you have too much solubility, that's a stress to the plant. Every time you use a chemical, that's a stress. We have to use chemicals, I get it, but that is a stress event. So every time you do or you have a stress event, you're losing bushels. So when we talk about carbon-based fertility or biologicals or all these types of things, what we're doing is we're managing for stress. That's what we're doing. Okay, so I want you to think about that. You guys are in one of the highest stress environments possible. All right, so if there's something you can do and you got to identify what is my number one stress I'm dealing with, when he talked about the yield limiting factor, that's stress. All right, so identify the stress and then try to do something to mitigate that stress and lessen that stress. And that's where you see your fastest ROIs. We talk about predicting your success. You predict your success by identifying your stress and mitigating it. All right, that's how we increase bushels. The last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll quit, and then Neil can get up here and talk, and I'm sorry for being long-winded, is this. He talked about Terranue. We ship Terranue a long ways up here, okay? And that's the reality of it right now. What I want to tell you guys is like the future of BioAg. All right, so we are very dead set on building new facilities and building new facilities closer to here. We ship about 90% of all of our Terranue to the High Plains right now. And that facility is in Fair Oaks, Indiana. We understand it, we realize it, because that's where the biggest impact is right now. But we're not there yet. So we got to do some of these things like Brooks talked about with the blends, and it does make sense to have the map in there and things like that. But the future is getting facilities up here. We've identified the dairies. We know we can do it. We're going to run an engineering study this year. Hopefully within 2 years, 3 years at most, we'll have facilities possibly in North Dakota, even into Idaho. So this is where we're going to potentially go. As you guys work with us, like we're not perfect yet. We're not a perfect company. We've got great things to bring great value to you guys, but you continue to work with us and build this demand up here. We're going to invest to make sure that you guys get your inputs cheaper, that you can get access to Terranue faster, easier. And at that point, when you talk about, well, why not 100% Terranue blend? The thing is like, that's what I want. That's the future of Terranue. Even in North Dakota is like, you know, we're doing a little bit of nutrient reduction strategy here because we're not putting enough pounds out there. We're still seeing great results. But if we can start to increase the amount of Terranue, that's just more carbon per acre. We're putting pounds of carbon on per acre. No other product out there, really, other than like Neil's gonna have something to talk about, but there's very few that can actually put tangible pounds of carbon, organic matter back in your soil outside of raw manure, and you guys don't have access to it. So I'm saying this to say, first of all, thank you to Cody for giving the opportunity to get this up here, to give it a chance, to do the trials, to prove out the concept, build the demand so that we can justify building these facilities and getting that stuff access to you guys easier and cheaper down the road. So appreciate your time. And if you guys got any questions, like, you know, hit us up during the meeting or at lunch or whatever it be. We'll be around all day. So thank you.
Before Neil goes, Justin, okay. Just 1 second, Justin. I'm going to kind of go over, Carson's getting these up on the screen, but Brooks kind of went over our trials that we did a little bit. I know they were just right by the highway. They're right outside of Kremlin. I'm sure a lot of people probably saw them. I wanted to kind of go over those a little bit more in depth, exactly kind of what we did. So on that field, we chose that field, obviously because it's by the highway. It's also, according to our SWAT maps, it's our most even field by far. When we made the zones, we couldn't hardly even determine between the difference to even make zones for it. But as you can see, that's kind of our data, and this is on recrop spring wheat. So I mean, to me, it's already a little bit yield limited to begin with. But the 40 rock versus the Terranue biogel combo is about a 5 bushel difference, or I guess, yeah, 4.5 bushel difference. The biggest thing that we noticed with that was on the this fall, and Taylor's the one that noticed it actually when he was spraying. We had that, Brooke showed that slide where we retain 1.4 inches of moisture, which that's really what we're trying to do as a farm is, you know, fertility I don't think is our yield limiting factor. Moisture always is, so we're trying to be, you know, use products that are a lot smarter and are gonna retain that moisture for us with carbon and the biogel line. But what we noticed is we seeded that crop to spring or winter canola this fall, and you could see to the line where that biogel was done. Taylor noticed it from the sprayer. The rosettes were about twice the size. So, you know, when they gave us that data, that graph that we retain that moisture, I didn't really know what to think. But when we could actually see it from the sprayer, that's when we really noticed that we probably did really retain that moisture. So that was pretty exciting. And then, and here's where, you know, the ROI, this one was on a different field. It wasn't by the highway, but this one is probably the most exciting. You can see I guess it's, oh yeah, there it is. The $50 ROI. Obviously, mustard's a lot higher dollar crop. But in our side-by-side trials, what we had is we had 25 pounds of 40 rock, and we only did this on about 80 acres. And then the rest of all of our yellow mustard, we had 25 pounds of Terra New. When we did the trial, I was actually talking with my dad. I was a little bit worried because the stuff that had the 40 rock looked a lot better. It was taller, a little bit thicker. So I was a little worried doing the trial. I thought we were gonna do something dumb and not have success with it, but much to our surprise, we were shocked the difference. I mean, we had about 140 pound increase on a side by side, and in the mustard world, I mean, that's massive. I think our expense was maybe like $2 an acre more than what the 40 rock cost. And I really don't know why. I kind of was asking these smart guys last night at dinner why they think that was. Was that the micro package? Was that the carbon? Was that the moisture retention? You know, I really don't know, but on the rest of our yellow mustard acres, we had a bunch by the highway there as well. We cut, you know, our best yields by far. And granted, I know it was a good growing season for mustard, but the crop really didn't look very good. It was short. It looked like it was maybe a 500 pound crop. I mean, when we got out there, we were over 1,000 pounds. We had some up to 1,200 on recrop mustard. And I think that carbon or that moisture retention or what, I don't know, maybe the micro package, I don't know what the difference was, but those pods were just plumb full versus where we had the 40 rock. It was really spindly and it was I'm hoping with our canola trial, we'll see that on the highway this year. A lot more drastic with the yellow. We can maybe see those differences than we can in the spring wheat, but we were really, really excited. I mean, that was a massive ROI we had on that. So I think it's a great fit for canola as well. The one other thing, and we don't have this slide, but at everybody's tables, there's a bunch of different, you know, they're going to stack there, but there's one that says the Midwestern BioAg field trial rebate. These guys didn't talk about it, but Midwestern BioAg is, I mean, they're so confident in their products, and right. I mean, we're all at the point where nobody really wants to spend extra money, right? And we really, with these products, we don't have to spend extra money, but they're so confident in it. And that's, you know, a lot of people are wondering why are we doing a pickup giveaway? That's all kind of behind Midwestern BioAg. They wanted us to throw a bunch of money, make a splash. They're giving us kind of the marketing money to do that. We thought it'd be best to go with a pickup giveaway, get some buzz that way instead of just your typical Trader's Dispatch, you know, radio ads, things like that. So that's what that is. That's where that's coming from. But on top of it, so the warranty program that Brooks talked about on the BioGel, you essentially have a risk-free. They're also offering a 0% interest on all the BioGel products, so you don't pay for it until after the warranty has already gone through. So if you don't see results, you never actually pay $1 for it. That payment isn't due until January of 27. And then the other thing is on this sheet that I was just talking about, they really want the data. So what they're offering is there's 3 different tiers of how in-depth you want to go with the data. If you basically just want to go like I think probably a lot of guys are going to choose, you can do you know, a $750 rebate on any of the BioGel or the Terra New products. And that's just basically giving the land locations to them so they can track it with satellites. You can go all the way up to a $2,000 rebate where you actually give them the shape files, you give them your harvest data, and you can see the as applied. So a little bit more in depth. And you can do up to 4 of those per farm. So essentially what we're saying is they're going to give you up to $8,000 of free fertilizer if you do the data on any of the BioGel, on any of the Terra New products. So I think that's a really great offer for people to get their feet wet and see how it works on your farm. I mean, we're really confident. We really think this can move the needle, and there's just some great offers with it. So I just wanted to kind of go over that. The other thing with the warranty, I think a lot of people are going to have questions on the real details of that. Right after lunch, we're going to have the rep from Grower's Edge, the third-party company that actually offers the warranty. If you guys have any questions, I think there's going to be a lot of questions with that as far as what the exact ins and outs are and how it works. Have those ready because we'll have her actual, you know, from the mouth of the company that does that. It'll be on a Zoom call. We'll have those questions for her and she can kind of answer those.